Us for the few weeks, so hopefully we got that lined out. But good to be in the house of the Lord this morning, and we're excited today as we have Bear Man, Jim VanSteenhouse, with us today, and so I'm looking forward to that. Also looking forward today, we will be having a baptism right after service. Praise the Lord. Our baptistry still is not fixed, so David gets the blessing of being baptized in a cooler. So we're praying for him. We know he's saved, so if something does happen, we know where he's going. But we're going to have, amen, we're going to have a great day today and excited about that. But a few years ago, several of us guys went up to the Ignite Men's Conference there in Lynchburg and got to hear Bear Man speak, Jim speak, and what a blessing it was in my own life. Really powerful testimony, just made me really think about a lot of things. And so his love of the outdoors, and a lot of our guys here, a lot of you guys and our hearts are outdoors type people. And so I kept praying about God opening up a door. And this year when we kind of decided to focus on doing a late season in evangelism, having different people in. If you've been with us the past several weeks, we've had illusionist, we've had a former wrestler, and now we've got Jim who's been attacked by a bear. So God is moving in all fashions and forms, and I'm thankful for that. So this morning I'm going to open us in a word of prayer, and then we'll let him and welcome him this morning to share what God's laid on his heart. And so let's pray. Father, as we have come into your house to worship you this morning, there is no one greater. There is no one else worthy of our worship other than you. And so, God, as we come into this place today, we decrease that you may increase. And I pray if there are those here today who may have been wrestling with salvation, that today would be that day. I pray for those of us who are believers that maybe in our lives there are some struggles, that today we would be set free of those. And so, God, I pray for Brother Jim this morning. Just anoint him, give him the words to speak. And, Lord, let your Holy Spirit be free to work here. And we pray and ask these things in Jesus' name, and amen.
The word says, for the spirit of heaviness, put on the garment of praise. And that's how we fight our battles. Yeah. This is how I fight my battles. 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 This is how, oh yeah. You never make it surrounded. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It's how we fight our battle. This is how we fight our battle. Oh.
Good morning, everybody. You know, Liz was asking me, my wife was asking me on the way up here, how did the folks in Grundy ever hear about you? And I was like, man, I have no idea. But I remember that Ignite Men's Conference. Where was that? Lynchburg? Is that right? Yeah. So this is fun. Y'all get to hear some. Y'all want to hear some stuff that nobody else knows about, right? So these folks call me. I'm not, and it's hard to explain, but I'm a stickler for details as long as I don't have to do them. Okay? So I get these calls in the Ignite Men's Conference. They call and they asked if I wanted to speak, and I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I say yes to anybody who wants to talk about Jesus. I mean, this microphone could say, would you talk to me about Jesus? And I'd be like, how much time you got, right? So they call, and I'm like, absolutely, perfect. So then some of the guys working in the ministry, they're going back with all this information, and then they send like this little, what do you call it, the little promo deal. And it's, I'm like, man, they're, they got, was it Admiral or General Boykin, and I think Marcus Luttrell, and Tim Tebow. And then they said, we're going to have 6,000 people. Man, I look like that emoji. Just, I was raised on a farm in eastern Michigan, in a town called Unionville, population about half the size of Grundy. So I'm down in Houston, Texas. That's where my company was at, and I'm kind of freaking out about this deal, Men's Ignite. And so I call them up, and I said, hey, really excited to go there, which was, a little bit of a lie. And I said, look, I mean, I'm not this really big speaker. I'm just a guy that talks about what the Lord did in his life when Satan sicked a big, furry, 800-pound, smelly animal on him. I said, could you do me a favor? And they're like, Mr. VanSteenhouse, what can you ask of us? I was like, I do not want to follow Tim Tebow. I don't want to follow Tim Tebow. And they're like, we'll see what we can do about that. And, the months go past, and you get closer and closer and closer, and your nerves just get, higher and higher and higher. And you show up, and they take you into the green room, into all these special rooms, and I get the agenda. And I not only follow Tim Tebow, I close. and you can't tell anybody this is totally unacceptable because it's like in concrete. So you just gotta go with it. But the bottom line is that I think it's the go with it that leads me to why we're here, right? And as I was telling Pastor Shea this morning, there is no way, unless a plane crashed, that I would be in this town if the Lord didn't drop on Pastor Shea's heart to pick up the phone and call, for us to have a conversation, and then for me to come here. It's not possible. It is not possible. My wife and I would not wake up, and you have limited time when your kids aren't in school and you're working, right? I mean, life is busy. And you're not going to wake up and take a look at when you have limited time and you got spring break or whatever it is, you get one vacation or how much time you get off, you have one, and just say, hey, well, you know what? I'm going to go to Grundy. Right? I mean, you're not going to wake up and say, hey, I'm going to go to Unionville, Michigan. Right? Google it, man. It's not happening. And, as I was sitting in my chair, I mean, this has nothing to do with the grizzly bear. Pastor Shea, we have until, I think he said we have until about 2 o'clock, so I'll make it quick. I was just reading this before I came up here. It says, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. And I don't want you to misconstrue why I bring this up, because I don't look at it as a suffering of doing what it is that I do. But it's the latter part of that I underlined. And it says, with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Now let me just take you guys, if you've got your Bible, as I was flipping around with that beautiful choir was singing, to Revelation 21, I think it's 21:4 if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Yeah, 21:4. And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, nor shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Okay, so let's put this in perspective. Back there in Romans, we're talking about the things that will be revealed to us. And then you flip over to Revelations 21:4, and it says, and God shall wipe away their tears. Let me tell you what that means to me. Liz and I, we're in the middle of, we joined Charis Bible College with Andrew Womack My wife has 88 classes ahead of me, so she's an overachiever. I just want to get that out because if you talk to her about it, she'll tell you she's ahead of me. It really bugs me. But anyways, the correlation between Romans and Revelation is what Andrew refers to as an Andrewism, right? It's kind of like the space between the lines and the revealed in the tears. And the way that I look at this is I put it into a kind of a little fable. If you were to close your eyes for 1 second, and you have been taken to heaven, and you open your eyes and you look and the Lord has your hand clasped in His hand, right? Can you see that? You're in heaven, and Jesus has your hand clasped in His hand, and He starts walking towards this incredibly big, warehouse, building, whatever you want to call it. But in heaven, there's no horizon. You can't see the sides, and you can't see the roof, and it just keeps going. And it's huge, and the door opens, and you start walking inside. And inside this incredible building, you're just walking along. You're just being led by Christ. You're looking, and all in these columns, there's box after box after box. It's just stacked up so beautifully. And you've never been someplace so beautiful in your life. You just see all these boxes with these names on them. And you're walking, and Christ stops, and He just kind of leans you, and you turn to your right, and you see a box with your name on it. And you say, man, curiosity gets the best of you, and you're like, Lord, what is in this box? And He looks, He says, when I meticulously wove you together, I formed you before the earth. I knew everything about you before I formed anything. And when I meticulously wove you together in your mother's womb, I gave you so many talents, so many traits, everything. I poured into you. Meticulously, I put you together with everything that I had. Every single talent that I gave you that was not used is in this box. Open it. And I believe that those are the tears that are going to be wiped away. My point is this, is that there are so many Grundy Virginias around this beautiful planet of ours. And the only way we get there is to step into the Lord. And my quest for you is imagine this room with the number of folks we have in here today. If you said, look, I'm not going to be bound. I'm not going to be bound to where I have to be. I'm going to allow the Lord to send me places. Lord, send me someplace where I have the ability to talk to somebody about a loving relationship with you. And I promise you, I am living proof. I promise you, you will stand someplace that you would never imagine ever being, talking about a relationship with Jesus Christ. And people will wonder, how did you get here? And you will remember this day. As Pastor Shea remembered the day that he was at Ignite Men's Conference. Did you know that before the Lord formed anything in his mind, he knew the day that he would be there, and he knew the day that he would call me. He knew the day that we would talk. But the Lord gave us the greatest gift of all, and it's the hardest one to manage. You know what it is? It's called free will. Do you know that the day that he was going to call me, probably all kinds of things were happening because Satan, he's just like, get him in the air, and he's firing him. And Pastor Sage says, yeah, you know what? Not today, I'm calling him. And we probably just had an awesome conversation. So a great challenge today. But just say, Lord, send me someplace or put me in front of somebody that I can talk to or I can pray with about you. All right? All right, that's a good challenge, right? Give you guys something to talk about over the next week. All right. How many, before I get going on that, we've got, after I'm done, I know it's crazy, and some of you probably got chicken on the roaster and you got to get out of here, but I brought something for you. We have some books for you. I say book, it's more like a pamphlet, right? It doesn't read like Hemingway, but it reads like VanSteenhouse. There's no charge. We'll give these books to you. One thing that I will tell you is, Liz and I we don't charge anywhere we go. The Lord has blessed us beyond what we deserve, for we feel that He has plans that we just simply cannot comprehend. We'll go anywhere, any place. It doesn't matter to me, the crowd. I freak out at 6,000. This right here, this is my comfort zone, because I feel like I can just relax and have a conversation, right? But I'd love to be able to give you one of those books. We don't advertise, we don't market. You will find that a couple of years ago or a year ago, I used to have Facebook and what's that other one, Liz? Help me, I forgot it. Instagram and all of those things. And man, we had 20,000 followers, and Zuckerberg's really good at what he does, man. You get that Facebook account, you wake up in the morning and somebody's looking at your stuff, man, that turns blue, or used to turn blue, and then for it not to be blue anymore, you got to click on it, it makes it white, which gives you like a little endorphin goes off, and you feel really good about clicking on somebody who clicked on you. And I woke up one morning, I went downstairs, and I told Liz, I was like, I feel like I'm spending an awful amount of time trying to manage this Facebook and Instagram. I think I'm going to get off of these things, right? And everybody's like, man, your ministry is going to just blow up. So we thought about it, and we prayed about it, and I got off. I completely shut it down. And as I love to tell folks, Facebook is very good when you go to shut down Facebook. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Now, are you sure you're sure? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, hit delete now. Do you want to hit the delete where it's like totally deleted, or do you want to hit the delete like in a week where you freak out and you want it to come back? That delete brings it back. So you got to go through that whole rigmarole, right? My point about the marketing and advertising is, of the 25,000 followers we had on Facebook and Instagram, when we got off of social media, 100%, and just had the website. Do you know how many people reached out to us on the website and said, hey, where'd you go? 25,000 followers. How many people do you think said, hey, where'd you go, Bear Man? Zero. Man, I'll tell you the deal with social media. Stick a toothpick in a glass of water, pull it out, and see what kind of dents you leave. That's social media. My point is bringing this up is we don't market, we don't advertise. If you are enjoying, just like Pastor Shea, if you are enjoying what it is you hear today, if you enjoy the message today, Liz and I's only ask of you is tell somebody. Because through your word of mouth, who knows where that carries and where that seed flows. That's how we go from town to town to town. All right. So outside also we'll have we got some swag out there, some really cool shirts like this and like the one under this. All the proceeds for our swag, that goes to our international ministries. You can see those on the website. We have indigenous pastors in Uganda and in Kenya. And man, I tell people all the time, you could go down to the gas station and have a conversation with somebody and walk up to them while you're pumping your unleaded and somebody's pumping diesel and be like, hey, what's your name? Jerry? Hey, Jerry, I'm Jim. Brother Jerry, do you believe in Jesus Christ, right? And have that conversation. If Jerry was interested, we could have a conversation. If Jerry wasn't interested, he'd be like, well, I'm done, right? His gas and put it away and go. Over in Uganda, when these guys go out into the bush, I call it the bush, they call it the villages. They debate the Muslims, a lot of witchcraft over there. They just try to kill you. So if you were going to go gas up your truck at the gas station and go introduce yourself to Jerry, but Jerry, you didn't know whether Jerry was going to try to kill you or not, how apt would you be to talk about your faith with Jerry at the gas station? A little different perspective, right? Pastor Zachariah Zawada in Uganda has had over 7 assassination attempts on his life. And he still goes without fail. My point is check that out. These guys are incredible. we love to support them, and that's where all the proceeds for the swag goes. We'll be at the table after we get done. How many hunters do we have in this group? All right, how many archery hunters do we have? All right, I love archery. I mean, I could get lost in these hills forever. I mean, I'm assuming there are whitetails running around here. Is that true? Not true? All right, cool. And Pastor Shea said y'all got elk, so if if there's a way to get an elk tag and somebody wants to put me up and maybe go chase them around or have me take pictures or whatever, my number's on the website too, hint. But I'm a huge archery hunter. I love hunting all over the world. And on some of these hunts, you got to plan these out, if not years in advance, at least months in advance. Now, on this particular hunt, I was going after moose, right? Now, I'm a little bit picky. When I plan something out 2-3 years in advance, I want to put myself in the absolute, unequivocal best position to have the opportunity to harvest the largest animal I can go after, right? I believe that second place is first place loser. I want to have the opportunity to get the best, and I'm not afraid to wait. I will save for years. I will plan for years. It doesn't matter to me, but when I go, it doesn't. If you don't get an animal, you can't control that. Control the controllables and manage the uncontrollables. I just want to have the opportunity to be in the best place. And as I did my research, I found out that you could go to Alaska, you could go to the Yukon, which is on the west side of the McKenzie Mountain Range, or you could go to the Northwest Territories of Canada, which is on the east side of the McKenzie Mountain Range. So I did all my research, talked to the outfitters, I talked to gentlemen that had gone on these hunts before, did my due diligence, had my Spinder notebook, and I made the decision to go to the Northwest Territories of Canada. Now, I don't know about you when you get ready to do all this hunting stuff, but I'll put my stuff out in my office. I'll lay it out on the ground, and I'll get everything just completely laid out where I can see it, because everything's got to dwindle down into a backpack that you're carrying for 15 to 18 days, depending on the length of the hunt. So you got to be careful about what you're taking. Weight is everything. When it comes to weight, here's the example. If you hunt 15 to 18 days and you take more than 2 pair of underwear, you don't care about weight, right? 2 pair of underwear is more like 4 because you get to put them inside out every single time, right? Cut your toothbrush in half. It's all about weight and it's all about space, right? So I got everything laid out. I pack it up. I put it in my backpack. I'm ready to go. How many people in here have daughters? Awesome. I'm about ready to walk out the door, and my daughter says to me, "Hey, Dad, I got an idea." The beauty salon is open. It's located in the kitchen. Today is pedicure day. Is that your daughter, Jerry? When she says, "You want to paint your toenails, Dad," what are you going to tell her? Bingo. Man, I said, sign me up. So that is me at the kitchen table with my daughter about 10 minutes before I left on this hunt. I don't know what color my toes are. It didn't matter to me. Could have been like that color or fuchsia. It didn't matter because I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to the Northwest Territories of Canada. Who's ever going to see my toes? Y'all remember this screen, right? For those of you who are geographically challenged, we lived in Houston, Texas at the time. In order to get to where we're going, it was Houston, Edmonton, Yellowknife, Norman Wells, and the cities are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. In Norman Wells, you jump on a float plane. That's where I met the rest of the other hunters. There were 6 of us, right? I was the only archer. All the other folks were riflemen. We jump on a float plane and we take off southwest into the McKenzie Mountain Range. And it's beautiful. This float plane just takes off of this lake. And he's flying right over the tops of the mountains. You're looking down and right there's snow-covered, beautiful mountains. You see the rivers down below. Absolutely gorgeous. Flying about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And all of a sudden this float plane starts circling this little body of water tucked away in the mountains. Lands right down in that body of water. Pulls right over to the shore. The door opens up and I grab my gear and I step off, and immediately into my ear is my guide. His name is Jordan Wagner. And Jordan's like, "Welcome to base camp, Mr. VanSteenhouse. We have a lot of things we need to do today. I need to grab a rifle. You need a sight in your bow. You need to pack your bag for 7 to 10 days because we're going to go out for 7 to 10 days. If we don't get something, we're going to come back. We're going to move locations. We got to grab some food. We got to grab a tent. We got to be ready to go. They're going to call your name to get on the helicopter. If you miss your name on the helicopter, you go to the bottom of the list. You go to the bottom of the list. You don't get out today, and you lose a whole day hunting." I said, I'll be ready. Let's kind of split these duties up. So we split them up. I took care of my stuff. Jordan took care of his stuff. They call their name. We get on the helicopter. And the helicopter is run by the gentleman who owns the outfit. His name is Stan. We jump on the helicopter. He just kind of takes off, and it's beautiful. I mean, you're just flying at these mid-altitudes around these mountains. You see all type of game and animals, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And he sets that helicopter down on an oxbow of a riverbed. And as he's taking off, we kind of got our heads down because the rotor wash kicking up the sand and whatnot. And I'm looking down, and I'm staring at a paw print about that big. And I was looking at him like, hey, Jordan, come here a minute. Is that a grizzly print? Man, Jordan come running over there. He looks at it. He says, yes, sir. We're staying away from those. I was like, man, roger that. You know, it's interesting. You know, people ask me all the time, what's the process? I mean, how do you know where to camp or where do you go? And there really isn't a process. You just kind of walk around until you find a great place to stop. You get settled in, kind of get your tent set up and all that gear set up. And on the very first day, what you basically do is you're out. It's a spot and stalk, right? You've got your bow. You climb the mountains. You're climbing anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 feet a day. The ground is completely covered in moss, so when you take one step, you sink. It feels like two feels like four. It gets, it's rather exasperating climbing the mountains. And all you do is you climb up to a certain spot where you can have an incredible view, and you glass using your binoculars to find either a male moose, a bull that's suitable to go after, or finding a cow, a female moose would be just as favorable because you're coming into season where they're going into heat. And then they may attract a bull, so it really didn't matter. And what we had in this picture here on the on the second day of this hunt, you know, we came in, spent the night, got up, ready to go day two. In this draw that you see down there in those pines, we had a female, a cow, come up that draw, right? She's just kind of mulling over. In the picture to the right, above those pines, she's mulling around in the willow bush, kind of eating and just mulling around, which is perfect. Hopefully we get a bull come up there. And on the other side of the river, you see a river down there at the bottom. There's a grizzly bear mulling around. And I'm looking at this grizzly bear through my binoculars. It's about yay big. And Jordan's like, we got to keep our eye on that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. So I went and I glassed to the south while Jordan was watching the north. And about an hour and a half later, I heard him say, VanSteenhouse, get over here, man. I grabbed my bow. I thought we game on. I come running over. He says, that cow moose just come busting out of this draw, and I don't see that grizzly anymore. I'm standing there with a bow in my hand. He's got a 44 lever action, not the biggest rifle you'd like to have. And no sooner did he say that, just kind of whoop, right up on that finger we were on, a grizzly popped up, about 70 yards away, and just kind of staring at you. They'll rock their head back and forth. And he shouldered that 44 lever action, threw it in the chamber, and said, if that bear takes another step forward, I'm going to put one in the dirt right in front of his face. And no sooner did he say that, the bear just started walking towards us. And Jordan racked one in, just threw that bullet right in front of that bear's face, and the dirt just exploded, and that bear just like, just started charging. And 70 became 60, became 50, became 40, became 30. And somewhere between 40 and 30 yards, you threw another one in that chamber and let it go, and you could just hear that bullet just whack that bear right in the rib cage. And that bear just spun around and barreled off down into the willows. Man, I'm 6'4", 230 pounds, standing there with a bow and stick in my hands. And you realize in those instances where the security that you think that you have, you know, we have this false sense of security that we go from our secure house to our secure car to secure this or wherever, and you just kind of, I think that I just kind of pack up security and I put it in my backpack and I take it wherever I go. And there are moments in life where something will happen and you realize that is just a fallacy. And from that point on in that hunt, my head was on a swivel. The next day, we probably walked 2.5, 3 miles away from where the incident happened. And I remember it was a great day. We saw maybe one moose. It's funny, I don't tell people this very often. We literally stared at what we thought were horns in between two pine trees. They were horns. They were shed. But we thought it was alive. We thought the horns were moving, but what it was the pine trees moving, but you're 1.5 miles away. But anyways, total waste of about 3 hours. And as the day's going on, I get a little bit bored quick. And as you can see behind my left foot there, I've got my satellite phone. And I'm not one really to kind of be overly, I don't read a lot of directions. And I buy these satellite phones, man. I take this piece of equipment on me everywhere I go in the world. It is an amazing piece of equipment. But man, look, the manual's this thick, right? It comes in 4 different languages, and there's just no pictures. And I cannot tell you that I've read the manual before I went out. But on days like this, when you're hunting and you get a little bit bored, you grab your satellite phone, you start fiddling around with it, and I realize this is an amazing piece of equipment. I get my altitude, my longitude, my latitude. This thing is crazy awesome. I realized I could text message my wife. I learned all about this satellite phone just sitting there fiddling with it on that mountain. And as the sun starts going down, Jordan says, we got to start heading back, pack up our stuff. We got another, 2.5, 3 mile walk back to camp. And Jordan starts to kind of like jog. This is how I'm dressed. I just didn't leave your local gym. And after about 50 yards, I grabbed Jordan by the back of the neck. I'm like, dude, why are we running? He looked at me and said, VanSteenhouse, when that sun goes down, you and I are low man on the totem pole. I did not have trouble running back to camp. We woke up. We woke up that 4th day. And I remember that morning, it was just freezing cold. We had you would leave your gear outside because the tent was small. We would sleep, both of us, in this tent. And we had a little breezeway where you'd put your shoes. I mean, breezeway, I say that's like this wide, right? The thing comes out the front of the tent. And our bows and backpacks and whatnot, we'd leave outside and we'd cover them with a tarp. And this tarp just had a huge coat of frost on it. It was very, very cold. And I made a quintessential mistake. I woke up and I put on every single piece of clothing that I brought. I mean, I looked like the Michelin Man starting to walk up the mountain, which is absolutely, as far as hiking mountains, it's dumb. I mean, how dumb you got to be before you can't breathe, right? It was just dumb. And I started going up this mountain, and the problem is you go from cold, and then about 100 yards into the deal, now you're sweating, right? And we're climbing. I don't know how far up we went. 1,000, 1,500 feet, and we got to this ledge, and I'm really sweating. And we're on this little ledge on this mountain, and Jordan's like, look, let's shed some of our gear. We got to get up another 500, 600 feet so we can get to the top of this knob where we can see across the other side. Let's shed some gear. Grab your bow, grab your binoculars. I'll grab my binos. I'll grab the rifle and head on up, man. You didn't have to ask me twice. I'm taking off my gear, throwing it on the ground, grab my bow, grab my binos, and we kind of go up to this knob. And we're just sitting there. I mean, we're literally just sitting on this knob, on the ground, just like this. I'm here. Jordan is to my left. And we're just glassing everything below us. Just looking for movement, looking for cows, looking for bulls. And I put my glasses down for a while because sometimes when I look downhill for an extended period of time, I get a little bit of vertigo, right? And just kind of put my glasses down and just sitting there looking at the beauty. And I asked Jordan a question. And when Jordan looked at me to answer my question, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking straight through me. And he said one word. He said, bear. And it's interesting, before I unpack that, there's a great quote that says, if you don't run into the devil from time to time, you may have to question if you're running in the same direction. And before I unpack what bear meant, I want to kind of put in perspective grizzly bears in the Northwest Territories of Canada. See, you folks, you have an advantage, right? Because sometimes I go to the big cities. And in the big city, they're like, oh, grizzly bear, man, I went to the Houston Zoo the other day, man, I gave Boo Boo a cracker. Man, this ain't Boo Boo. And you're the cracker. And what I've got here is a little video of 2 grizzly bears sizing each other up. And you can just pay attention to, number one, their size, how quick they are. And when they're tired of one another, what that looks like when they really get after it. Check it out. They're sizing each other up right now. I wonder who's going to make the first move. Right about looks like in the Northwest Territories of Canada? Well, there's a paw. Ladies and gentlemen, they're protected. They're a spiritual animal. The Inuits, the Eskimos, they've never been hunted. They have no fear of man. Animals, fear is a learned behavior. Why are whitetail afraid? Because every time they get around you, they hear a kaboom and then they're dead. Right? And their friend's like, "Whoo, that boom's bad." But the grizzlies have never been hunted. Whenever they hear a rifle report, they go to the sound of the rifle. Why? Why would they run towards it? Because when they get there, there's this huge carcass. Can you imagine the grizzly bear conversation when he gets home at night? "Honey, you're not going to believe this. I heard another kaboom. I went there and there's this huge meal. This is amazing, this place." They have no fear. They've never been hunted. Grizzlies can get up to speeds 35 to 37 miles an hour, short distances. They can smell food from over 2 miles away. They can bite with enough pressure to crush a bowling ball. And they smell 2,100 times better than you and I. They are the alpha. When Jordan said, "bear," I just followed his gaze, and I just turned around, and at my 4 o'clock, right here, is a mature boar grizzly bear. He's on all fours, and they just stand there, and he's rocking his head back and forth, curling their lips, and he would put out a low grunt sound, kind of just a and he was snapping his teeth, just kind of. And I looked at the bear, and I snapped back to Jordan. Jordan had that 44 lever action right alongside him. Had he grabbed it and shouldered it, I was in the line of fire. I just laid back, let him roll thunder right over me. But I looked at Jordan, hadn't moved, and when I looked back at that bear, just boom, he just lunged. People ask me all the time, "What were you thinking?" Not a lot. I'll never forget the way that he smelled. He smelled like death. I'll never forget looking into his eyes. It looked as if you were staring straight into the eyes of the devil. I thought about my wife. I thought about my daughter. I have 2 sons. I didn't think about them. I don't know why. Guess they're on their own. When he lunged, I rolled my right shoulder and put my hands over my head, which was the first thing that he went for. When canines enter your skull, you don't hear that externally. You hear that internally. As your hands got caught up in his mouth, that you hear externally as your bones are just snapping like twigs. And hit my right shoulder, right side, right hip, left thigh, right calf, and all of a sudden everything just stops. Dead stop. And I'm laying with my face just slammed against the ground as hard as I can press it against the ground, and I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing. Nothing hurts. And I opened my eyes, and right out of the left corner of my eye, I could see that grizzly bear's nostrils. He was right there. I mean, he was so close, I could hear the air just get sucked into his nostrils. And I just slamming my face against the ground. And I don't know how much time passed by, but he just took a couple steps to his left, and he'd look back. And he'd take a couple more steps, and he'd look back. And it's raining outside, and I'm thinking to myself, where am I? And I kind of pick my head up, and I'm kind of almost in the pine trees. There were no pine trees when it started. He had ended up dragging me over 50 yards down the mountain. Which is what they do. They take you, then they bury you, they let you soften up, then they'll come back and they'll eat you. And as he's about 10, 11 yards away, I'm thinking to myself, where's Jordan? It's raining outside, and I get to my knees, and I went to wipe the water off my face with my hand, and I looked, and my fingers were going in directions that I'd never seen before. And I was like, huh! And I threw my hand down, I brought up my left hand, and it was even worse, and I went to wipe the rain off my brow with my forearm, and I realized it wasn't rain at all, it was blood. And I looked down at my clothing, and it looks like I my camouflage is shredded. It looks like you just got in a fight with Edward Scissorhands. And it's just everything that was once green is now, and camo is now turning to red and blood. And you got the little tears coming out of your pants, and you look, and the blood would get to the end of the tear, and you're like, well, I wonder where that's going to start going. And it just starts dripping on the ground, and I can feel the blood going down the back of my neck and my sides and my legs. I had no idea where Jordan was, and what do I do? Do I stay here? And I just started going up the mountain, just stumbling and bumbling up that mountain. And all I wanted to do is find Jordan and ask him, is my head okay? I didn't know if it was dented or scratched or some of it missing. As I'm going up, I'm just yelling his name, and finally I hear him say, Jim. I'm like, oh, yes. We're getting closer and closer and closer. And I just wanted to ask him, is my head okay? And right when we got close enough where I was going to ask him, he looked at me, just looks in my head, and he goes, holy, fill in the blank. And then I was petrified. You see, we not only had to get all the way back up to where the accident happened, we had to get back down to where we left our gear because we were going to be right back. And we got back to the gear, and I just collapsed against my backpack, and I just remember laying there. And you could just feel the warmth of the blood running down the back of your neck and my sides and my legs. I'm just laying there slumped against my backpack. And Jordan had what's called an inReach system. It's a little satellite system that he would communicate with base camp, just to let them know we're okay. And he'd check in all the time, and he'd grab that thing out, and he fired it up, and he was going to tell the base camp we had an emergency. And I don't know if it was the Indian or the arrow. It wasn't working, or it wasn't working properly. I don't know the answer. And I know he's frustrated. And I remember telling him, Jordan, my satellite phone's in my backpack. I didn't read the directions, but there's a red button on top, and it's covered with a little plastic black cover. Power up that satellite phone, pop that plastic black cover, and push that red button. I don't know what happens, man. Maybe they send the Navy SEALs. And he powered up that satellite phone, he popped that black cover, and he pushes that red button. And about 30 seconds later, we got a text message. It said, Dear Iridian user, in order to use the SOS feature on your satellite phone, you must first pre-register. It's a free service, but required before it'll work. Ha! Read the directions. I said, Jordan, you're going to need to call my wife. From the McKenzie Mountain Range in the Northwest Territories of Canada, Jordan takes that satellite phone and calls my wife, Elizabeth, who's sitting right there. She's in the parking lot of a grocery store in Houston, Texas, Cypress, Texas, to be exact. Picks up, Miss VanSteenhouse, my name is Jordan Wagner. Your husband has been attacked by a grizzly bear. I need you to write down our longitude and latitude as quickly as possible. We need emergency evacuation. And then the phone cut out. For anybody in the room that would like to know what it's like to be on the other end of that kind of a phone call, she'll be right outside with me afterwards. She wrote down the longitude and latitude. She started working from where she was north using all of the emergency systems. The emergency system on the satellite phone did work. They cut her off. They put themselves in. Jordan gave them the longitude and latitude as well. And then we just waited. I had no idea of time. But I remember I was laying against that backpack, and after a certain amount of time, I remember I could hear the helicopter. You can hear it coming long before you can see. You just hear the shoo, 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 shoo with the rotor blades. Like, yes, where's it? And you're looking, and all of a sudden you see this little dot come out of the mountains way below you. And it's flying, and it's shoo, 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 and it goes up the river beside us. Like, no, where's it going? Ah. And it kind of disappears, and it comes back, and it flies down below us. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, he's never going to find us. And all of a sudden, just shoot right up in front of me. I am staring at Stan straight in the eyes in that helicopter. He brings that thing over. He lets it right down there on the ground. And out of the back of this helicopter jumps Dr. Bob Burlingame and a couple guides. Dr. Burlingame had shot a moose on the second day. And he was back at base camp, and he came out to render help. And he came over, and I remember laying against my backpack. And Dr. Burlingame is asking me all kinds of questions. And in my mind, I'm answering his questions. And he looked at the guides and he said, man, he's completely unresponsive. I was in shock. They laid me out on the two backpack straps up, put me in the back of the helicopter, took me back to base camp. There's a hole incredible rabbit trail is what I call them, about God's fingerprints all over this journey. But they rigged that helicopter up to get that helicopter to go to Yellowknife. The helicopter was not built to go where they were going to take it. You see, the Coast Guard couldn't get in because the ceiling was too low. So they told Stan, the outfitter and the pilot, you're either going to get him to Yellowknife because that's his only way out. And they threw me in the back of the helicopter. I remember I was sitting sideways. I'm in the back. I'm laying sideways on the seat, got my back against the door. They crushed plywood pieces and put my hands gently on plywood and then taped them to the plywood so none of the bones would hit a nerve or a tendon or a ligament. So both my hands are taped to plywood. And as Stan lifts off, I can remember looking down at my clothes and just everything now has gone from camouflage to red, and I just still feel the blood just oozing down my body parts because it's warm. And I'm sitting there against that seat, and I just noticed that, as you're sitting sideways in the seat, your hip has got that little depression in the seat, and it's the low spot, and it would just kind of fill with blood. And then when I was like, well, where's it going to go? And it gets full, and then it just started spilling over onto the floor, and you look down at the floorboard, and the pool just gets a little bigger and bigger. And then you could hear those rotors over top just shoot, 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 shoot. And I'm looking out the window in front of me, and the stone and the dirt and the snow, it's just shoo, 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 it's going by the window so fast because Stan is just following right on that river, and you can feel every time that helicopter go around a corner, you would just feel it, just the inertia just kind of pull you around. He's right on that right on the river, and you can just say, oh my gosh, I know. I mean, it feels low. I know we're at the safe distance because he's a great pilot. And he's screaming down the river, and as you look out the window, it just looks like everything in the mountain just wants to grab the helicopter and smash it. And I'm petrified, and I'm freezing cold. And you look down at the floorboard, and it's just the pool of blood's getting bigger, and then you just kind of lose consciousness. Come back to. And lose consciousness. Come back to. And I remember when I came back to, on one of those occasions, I asked myself, if I lose consciousness in the back of this helicopter, and I never come back to, am I going to heaven or am I going to hell? Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that if you are ever in a situation where you don't know if you ever close your eyes, you will open them again, that question becomes real fast. I mean, if I told everybody in this room, we're going to hold our breath for 10 seconds, no problem. Close your eyes, hold your breath for 10 seconds, and in 10 seconds, only half of you will ever open your eyes again. In that 10 seconds, that question will become real fast. And I absolutely panicked. I panicked right there in the back of the helicopter. Why? Because all I had to look back on at 47 years of age was my life. A life of absolute destruction. A life of a slave to selfishness. All I've ever done in my life is do whatever I needed to do for me to get the advantage. It's like I had this abyss, this hole, this eternal hole alongside me that all I want to do all the way through my life is just take every material, fleshly thing that the earth had to offer and take it and make it mine and put it in this hole. I wanted to be the first person that could ever fill the abyss with just earthly treasures. And it didn't matter who I had to hurt to get what I wanted.